The game is called Daggerheart. What sets Daggerheart apart? And let the dice decide their fate. Daggerheart is called...
Hey, Mark here.
I love you, Mark.
Something unexpected is going on with Daggerheart, the role-playing game, and particularly with its third-party publishing scene. That is, the books and supplements compatible with Daggerheart, but created by independent game designers or small publishing studios. In short, where is it? Where are all the successful third-party books and supplements that one would expect to see for such a hot new role-playing game with more pre-orders than books in stock, and like any role-playing game, with a community of creative people that one would expect to be making stuff for the game they're excited about? Now, there is not one, but 3 elephants in this room that might hold our answer, but I think they might be obscuring the real answer. Elephant 1. You might have heard rumors or outrage over the Daggerheart third-party license, and that certainly plays a part in this story, which we'll dissect later. Elephant 2. There are indie books for Daggerheart. In fact, as of writing this video, there are 101 Daggerheart titles on DriveThruRPG, the biggest online marketplace for third-party RPG books, and on quantity alone, most game studios would kill to have that amount of support for their brand new game, and that's right. Elephant 3. This game has only been out for 3 months as of writing, so maybe, in fact, my hope, pun intended, is that this mystery will be a moot point only a few more months from now. But the other issue that some folks believe to be the true cause behind all this, preventing all this Daggerheart hype from trickling down to indie publishers, is the same double-edged sword, yes, that same dark shadow that has chased Critical Role for years. Fandom. And I don't mean the company, I mean like fans with strong opinions. And if you're like me in that you used to be way more in touch with Critical Role than you are now, we gotta break this down by jumping back to the beginning. Or if you are still really in touch with Critical Role, you'll just enjoy this little recap.
And welcome to tonight's episode of Critical Role, where a bunch of us nerdy-ass voice actors sit around and play Dungeons & Dragons.
First, you might be surprised to hear that Critical Role was far from the first attempt at an internet show based on role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. But for every Critical Role, Acquisitions Incorporated, and Adventure Zone podcast, which started early and made it to popularity, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of others who tried. But only Critical Role became so popular that an improvised joke about an in-game romance novel could be turned into a real romance novel as a New York Times bestseller that my parents saved me a newspaper article about. Yeah, I wish I still had the clipping my mom gave me to really make the point here, but all that happened and we're getting ahead of ourselves. In these earliest days of Critical Role, we can pinpoint the exact moment that the players, the fans, the producers all knew this internet show based around Dungeons & Dragons was gonna be special, and it was gonna be huge. May 15th, 2015, only 2 months after launching the show, the cast of Critical Role announces live on air their first piece of merchandise. 100 prints of a t-shirt featuring the names of the characters and Mercer, of course, and before the cast could even finish the announcement, the shirt sold out.
We didn't even finish telling you people.
Keep in mind, during these early live episodes, there was a clear and direct feedback loop between the charisma of the players and the excitement of the viewer, elevating the experience. These fans, dubbed critters right around this time, were not only selling out the merch and smashing goals for charity fundraising, but also expressing their excitement through simple things like the live chat on screen and more complicated things like mailing in handcrafted gifts to the players and even sending meals into the studio.
Do they know the address here? It's kind of creepy.
This was all in good fun, just a few thousand nerds enjoying the performances, the game, the personalities, and I was there for it. Rarely watching the stream, but catching every new episode as they appeared on YouTube, then chatting about it the next day with my coworker Andrew. I am nostalgic for this time, but it's hard not to look back with a healthy amount of cringe for how connected I felt to the cast, this bunch of nerdy-ass strangers playing Dungeons and Dragons. Now let's put a pin in this parasocial relationship topic and jump back to the present day, and to our three elephants in the room of Daggerheart third-party publications. Starting with an awesome third-party Daggerheart and D&D product sponsoring this video. An incredible box set of 3D minis with modular map tiles and an encounter book, all built to minimize prep and kickstart your campaign with an epic battle. It's called Ready, Set, Encounter, Volume 1, The Dragoning. That's over 30 minis, including dragonborn cultists, kobold lizard riders, and the huge red dragon Perganox, the Flame Tyrant. The map tiles are perfect for DIY dungeons and, of course, for the included encounter book, focused on cinematic and heroic combat, allegedly scalable to any level, even with the huge red dragon. You can check it out today on Kickstarter through my link below, so they know who sent you. And yeah, Volume 1 is a good sign, because this high-quality 5e and Daggerheart compatible project is exactly the kind of thing I expected to see much more of already, even though it hasn't been that long since.
Welcome to Daggerheart.
So 3 months ago, May 20th, 2025, Critical Role's game publishing wing, Darrington Press, releases its first high fantasy tabletop role-playing game, Daggerheart, and it's selling out through pre-orders faster than Amazon, game stores, and even their own website can keep it in stock. On DriveThruRPG, the digital marketplace I mentioned earlier, Daggerheart very quickly reached adamantine bestseller status. That is the top level, meaning over 5,000 sales of just the PDF from that site alone. But we shall not forget Elephant One. The one wet blanket on all this excitement was some hashtag drama from a vocal minority about the Daggerheart license, which is supposed to encourage third-party publishers to sell their own works compatible with the game. Now, absolutely, this license was and currently is far more restrictive than the Creative Commons license used by D&D today, as well as my favorite bespoke license for an RPG, the one made for Shadowdark. But to briefly summarize the claim and why it falls flat, a few folks warned that this Daggerheart license is as bad or worse than how D&D tried to change their old license by imposing super harsh restrictions that would have ended thousands of indie creator careers built on the 20-year promise that D&D's license would never change. Meanwhile, for Daggerheart, it says plain and simple, yes, this license will change, so there can be no broken promises, and as it changes, there's nothing at stake here. Because unlike D&D, exactly 0 indie creator careers are built on the Daggerheart license, and we can all agree that no indie creator should base their career on one other company. That's the lesson we all learned from the D&D scandal. Yet, I do think the scandal claims probably succeeded at frightening some people who would have otherwise enjoyed creating something for an RPG that they like and trying to sell a few copies of it online.
Daggerheart is calling. What stories await you?
And if you want the real proof that these concerns over the license isn't the main reason for the lack of Daggerheart third-party content, all you have to do is look at Elephants 2 and 3. Out of all these 100 or so third-party Daggerheart works already on DriveThruRPG in only the first 3 months, a lot of these indie publishers don't seem to be reading the license. I predicted this would happen in my video on it, and I'll repeat another line from that video. I'm not a lawyer, so don't listen to me about how to use the license. That said, I did ask a lawyer about one part specifically, and they agreed. As of late July, the license says you cannot use the word Daggerheart in your product's title, even if you write Daggerheart Compatible or Daggerheart TM. It says that should only appear in marketing descriptions, and the word should not even appear on your cover except as part of the provided Daggerheart compatibility logo. And yet, plenty of indie publishers are breaking those simple rules, probably without knowing it because they didn't read the license, and certainly benefiting from it by including that valuable search term in their titles. So drop it in the comments. Like D&D has 5e, what's the alternate term, not trademarked, that we should use for Daggerheart? DHCRRPG, not campaign 4? Too soon. Too soon. But do not despair, my fellow rule followers. There is some justice in the world. I don't know who is responsible for this, but I extend my thanks to whichever drive-thru-RPG employee chose to include my fully compliant Adventures cover image on a banner ad for Daggerheart products. And this is kind of a sidebar, but it's also gonna send this last point home, baby.
What sets Daggerheart apart?
You probably didn't know this, but I've published about 20 one-shot adventures compatible with D&D 5e on this website between 2022 and 2024. And I'm pretty confident that you didn't know, because except for one of them that's priced as pay what you want, each of my $5 one-shots has sold like 20 copies. That's not so bad in the grand scheme of things. And you know what? The layout and the covers are decent. I like the interior art that I commissioned, the maps that I licensed, and I'm proud of the writers I collaborated with. But despite my attempts to plug these products in a few videos and a lot of community posts over the years, they just don't sell. And I think it's because the competition for 5e adventures is so high. Therefore, when I was working on this Daggerheart one-shot adventure, I decided to raise my game. I commissioned a custom cover, I purchased a suite of software to do more professional layout, and then learned the basics of using that software. I drew multiple art pieces all by myself, and then as usual, I plugged it in a video and some social media posts, and it worked. It sold like 250 copies, 10 times more than my 5e one-shots, and as of writing this video, it is literally the hottest selling Daggerheart product on DriveThruRPG besides the core rulebook. I'm very grateful for everyone who has checked it out and helped me earn back my money on the cover and the layout software, and yeah, link below if you want to check it out. But we return to our mystery. Where are all the creative critters who I know are fantastic artists, writers, graphic designers, and better established publishers who ought to be filling the insane gap between my lucky 250 sales, again, thank you DTRPG for advertising it, and the 5,000 sales of the core rulebook? There should not be such a wild disparity between 3 products adjacent in the ranking, right? And sorry, only 3 months old doesn't quite do it for digital products. Physical books campaigning on Kickstarter? Yeah, totally. But PDFs? No. I remember back in the day when I kept a close eye on the DM's Guild, the 5e-focused sister site of DriveThruRPG, where indie publishers would launch high-quality supplements for official D&D books, sometimes on the very same day that those official books would come out, and even though the books were brand new and people had barely read them yet, those supplements could get a lot of sales right away. So especially for the Critical Role fantasy RPG that people knew would be big, not this big, but big, and for this game that had been publicly playtesting for over a year, people could see the rules, see the art style, the layout, trade dress, and all that. We should have had publishers poised and ready with their PDFs of Daggerheart monsters and adventures who were only waiting for that license to drop. But we didn't. And this brings us to the fourth elephant, the other plausible reason why we may never see many Daggerheart indie creations, or at least many publishers reading the license, or many publications getting into the 500 and 1,000 sale range. It may be the case that unlike with hardcore D&D fans, many hardcore Critical Role fans, the ones actually buying stuff, are only interested in buying first-party products. Now, we unpin the parasocial relationships. Yep, maybe they don't want a Daggerheart supplement unless Matt Mercer himself typed the words and smooched the package on the way out the door.
We're packaging them ourselves.
But in my quest to stay optimistic about all things RPGs, I leave you with a different take. More than how new the game is, or whatever the outrage mill claims are gonna be next week. Maybe this hypothetical critter customer is only into the first-party stuff because, so far, only the first-party stuff is really well made. Critical Role undeniably rose to the top for producing high-quality products like their shows and t-shirts and romance novels and RPG books. Look, I don't care if you like the rules. We're talking hardback, stitch-bound, dual ribbon, control panel layout, colored tabs on the foredge. You don't see this too often outside of the OSR. So that's it. The number one hurdle for third-party Daggerheart publications seems to be the height of the bar, set by Critical Role and Darrington Press themselves. And my hope is that more independent writers and designers and artists will do exactly what I tried to do with my adventure and push their creative efforts to new heights. If you agree, be sure to like this video, check out this cool one on your screen, and consider joining the Bob World Builder patrons and YouTube channel members for that sweet, sweet bonus content. Thank you, and keep building.